Oh boy, disclaimer.
The Burning is a 1981 slasher movie directed by Tony Maylam and produced by... Oh shit, that's a rough subject these days. Turns out he who must not be named also wrote this movie with Brad Gray and Tony Maylam. The Burning was released during a hype of the slasher craze, a time when all people wanted to see was a killer going around murdering teenagers in brutal ways. With the success of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween and Friday the 13th, a lot of movie makers jumped onto the bandwagon in an attempt to cash in on the subgenre. Horror movies at the time were pretty easy to make on a low budget, and because of their popularity they were an easy moneymaker and a great way to get your name out there. Hey, it was the social media of its day. Sadly, everyone had the same idea, meaning all these money-making movies ended up overlapping, and as a consequence, a lot of slasher films didn't get the interest needed to make them as legendary as some others from the genre. Sure, some classics slipped through the cracks like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Child's Play, but these movies had bigger budgets and added something new to the table. Sadly, The Burning fell into the former category, failing to hit the success it could have achieved due to a lack of interest or revenue. However, like many slasher movies, it went on to obtain a cult following, and is now considered a hidden gem of its time. That might sound good, but like I said, many slasher movies have had the same said about them. So is The Burning really a true hidden masterpiece, or is it a generic slasher that belongs in the barrel of forgotten nothings? Synopsis. In 1976 at Camp Blackfoot, a group of campers decide to play a prank on the mean, bitter, alcoholic groundskeeper of the camp, Cropsey. What do, I hear you ask? Throw water balloons at him? Maybe cover him in flour? How about lighting up a bag of shit outside of his door? No, instead they decide to put a candlelit rotting skull in his cabin. What the hell's wrong with these kids? Like seriously, how the fuck did they get that thing? Jimmy, where did you get this? Oh, it's from the archery teacher I killed last week. Unfortunately, things go terribly wrong as Cropsey, in a panic, knocks the skull onto his bed, thus setting himself on fire. If that wasn't enough, the flames also reached a gas tank in the cabin, turning Cropsey into a human fireball, in a really cool visual, it has to be said. Somehow he managed to survive becoming a walking crematorium, and a week later, at the hospital, we see him trying to attack two doctors checking up on him. Fast forward 5 whole years, and the severely disfigured Cropsey is released to live on the streets. I can't imagine this having any bad repercussions. Oh god, he kills a hooker hours after being released. I guess he gave her a different kind of tip. Anyway, if you hadn't guessed it by now, this is very much a revenge for a prank gone wrong movie, mixed with just a little hint of backwards campsite slasher movie. And I tell you what, it's a pretty cool blend if I'm honest. Cropsey of course goes on to terrorise a bunch of teenagers at a campsite, that's Camp Stonewater to be exact, but there are other plots going on too. For example, Alfred is a kid who decides to try and scare a girl called Sally by making her jump while she's in the shower, prompting many others to consider him a creepy pervert, especially Glazer, who himself is a creepy pervert, constantly trying to get Sally to sleep with him. You also have the antics of Eddie trying to get Karen to sleep with him. And we also see the relationship between camp counsellors Todd and Michelle. And we see a group of teenage boys smoking cigars and looking at porn magazines. Okay, it's another movie just filled with horny teenagers. Are you really that shocked? That's the basic subplot of pretty much every slasher ever made. Also, if you think you can see some familiar faces in this review, then you'd be right. Dave and Woodstock, for example, are played by a scarily young Jason Alexander and Fisher Stevens, respectively. Anyway, the campers all fuck off on a canoe trip up the river where they intend to set camp for the night. And I gotta tell you, seeing them all laughing and having fun on their way actually makes me smile. It's nice to see they're not all just jerks and that they actually have personality. It makes you want to see them survive, something which is lacking in many slasher flicks. Unfortunately for them, however, this gives Cropsey the perfect chance for him to get his sweet, sweet revenge. Later on, Eddie and Karen sneak off to do, well, what else? Skinny dip and fuck, but Karen pulls out at the last minute, causing Eddie to get stroppy. Sadly, Karen got her tartars out, so we fucking know she's gonna die, and lo and behold, she dies. The following morning, the campers discover that she is missing and so are their canoes. No matter though, as they use their survival skills to build a raft, which Eddie, Woodstock and a bunch of other interesting characters use to try and get back to the camp to find help. They come across a stray canoe and boom! There's Cropsey! Yeah, it doesn't end well for them. Now at this point I just want to say that the third act of this movie is really worth checking out if you haven't, so if you have yet to watch The Burning and don't want any pesky spoilers, please skip to this time code. Go on, I'll wait. So the campers set camp once again, whilst waiting for the others to return. Glazer and Sally bugger off to, you guessed it, have sex, but that's a sin, so Cropsy kills them. Alfred, who was spying on them because he's a weird fuck, witnesses this and gets Todd for help. Cropsy then knocks Todd out and chases Alfred into the wilderness. The following morning we see the raft float back with the corpses of the dead campers on them, so the rest of the campers, minus a missing Alfred and Todd, use it to get back to the camp to call the police and get the supervisor to help them. Todd awakes, grabs an axe and tries to find Alfred, but uh-oh, Cropsy got him. He takes Alfred to an abandoned mine shaft and holds him against the wall by pinning his arm against the wall with his garden shears. Ouch, that's nasty. Todd turns up and we see an awesome use of suspense. Honestly, the dark shadows, the lack of music, the sound of silence really adds to the atmosphere and keeps you on the edge of your seat. Then boom! There's Cropsy armed with a fucking flamethrower! And man did the makeup team do a great job on the burn effects. Just look at that! He looks like an undercooked hamburger that's been dropped on the floor and trodden on. We also learn through flashbacks that Todd is actually one of the teens responsible for the prank that went wrong at the beginning of the movie. Cropsy, of course, tries to kill him, but Alfred frees himself and stabs Cropsy with his own shears. But this is a slasher movie, so that doesn't kill him. An axe to the head, however, does, and just to make sure, Alfred sets him on fire, and the last we see is his eerie image of Cropsy burning to a crisp. And that's the basic summary of The Burning, but was it a good movie? Well, let's take a look at the good, the bad, and the overall to find out. The good. This kinda goes without saying, but the kills in this movie are fantastic. The set of garden shears as a weapon is a great choice, and the legendary Tom Savini did the makeup effects, turning down the chance to work on Friday the 13th Part 2 in the process. Tom Savini plus a slasher villain equals a bunch of brutal, gory and entertaining deaths that any gore fans will love. The theme music used throughout is also fantastic. The theme music was actually composed by Rick Wakeman from the band Yes. Now that's cool. The music is always used at the right moment, such as when we see things from Cropsy's view or when the chase is on. It just adds so much to the tension. Speaking of which, the atmosphere is fantastic, as is the lighting and the pacing. I love the fake-out moments, like this one near the beginning of the film where we see Karen running into the woods to retrieve a baseball. We see her through Cropsy vision, as I'm now calling it, with the awesome theme music playing and getting louder. You're almost certain she's done for, but then she finds the ball and joins the other. This movie has a few of these moments and they are really great. And Cropsy is a fucking amazing villain. I love how we mostly see him in the shadows and silhouettes. We're not seeing his disfigurements until the very end of the movie. That and his weapon of choice is just insanely awesome. Fun fact, Cropsy is actually the inspiration for Scissor Man in the Clockwork games, which is one of my favourite video game franchises. Also, this might sound a bit odd, but I just love the chemistry between the characters. Seeing them bond together and have fun makes you want to see them survive, and you genuinely feel gutted when they inevitably die. I especially love the scenes between the boys like Dave, Woodstock and Fish because they come across as genuine friends. I love seeing them smoking, playing cards and sharing magazines. Even the sex pest dicks like Glazer and Eddie aren't terrible, with both having redeeming qualities. This is one of the very few slasher movies where practically all the characters are likeable in some way and they feel fleshed out, not just some two-dimensional teens that are free meat for the killer. Oh, and the location is stunning, with some great visuals throughout the movie. The bad. Being honest, I actually struggled to find things that I genuinely didn't like in this movie. Sure, the acting isn't great at points, but that's mainly limited to the actors who appear on screen less, so it's not a terrible issue. I guess the hooker's death was pretty pointless and didn't add, well, anything to the movie other than to get some extra colour shown on screen. The doctor at the beginning is also a bit annoying, especially with the way he talks about patients.
Man, this guy's burned so bad, he's cooked. A fucking Big Mac. Overdone.
Oh, and Alfred's a dick, pure and simple. I get that he's picked on a lot, but sneaking into the girls' showers and spying on people having sex isn't how you come to terms with shit like that. And we're supposed to root for this creep? Yeah, okay. The overall. The Burning is actually one of my all-time favourite slasher films. Hell, it's one of my all-time favourite horror films. It wasn't like most movies of its time, where they were rushed into theatres to make a quick buck. There was actual effort and passion put into this movie, with real production value. The acting, for the most part, is brilliant, and the characters are great. The suspense and pacing are excellent, as is the music score. Throw in some great deaths and gore effects, and you have one of the best slashers ever made in my opinion. The Burning is a movie fully deserving of its cult status, and was sadly released at the wrong time. Had it been released a year or two earlier, it could have easily had the same success as Halloween, Friday the 13th and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but unfortunately, being released the same time as many other cash-grabbing slashers, it was left mostly untouched, leaving it a hidden gem of its time. And that's it for this review and this video. What are your thoughts on The Burning? Do you agree with me and think it's one of the best ever, or do you think I'm overhyping it? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new to this channel and you enjoy this video, please feel free to click those like, share and subscribe buttons. Take care and see you soon.